Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another kind of a discussion video in of itself that I want to talk about specifically. Now, last month I did a spoiler review of Matrix Resurrections. And you can check it out on my channel as to my spoiler review of the film. That's youtube.com/talkativecarl. Follow me in the links in the description below. In the past few days, almost a week now, I've been hearing from other people who gotten around to watching Matrix 4 and hearing their take on why they didn't care for it. And I'm listening to other reviewers and and just my own, experience viewing the film. Now, it's a far cry from being like the perfect movie or like on a level of something like No Way Home, which I kind of expect it to have been like a little, it went up against like in the same month, or at least had to come right after the success of Spider-Man No Way Home. So that kind of hindered it in some capacity, or it wasn't that kind of a vitriol to go see it as much as was No Way Home. But ratings wise, it's 60-65%. So it's like, for the most part, it's an okay movie, which I tend to agree. It's a pretty serviceable film, far cry from being terrible. I spoke with some friends. I told them this would have been a more proper, if all things were equal, this would have been a more proper of a sequel to Matrix, the first Matrix movie, rather than what we've gotten. And as I explained to some people, at least my take on it, is that the Wachowskis, or at least in specifically Lana Wachowski, she was in a different mindset at the time of the first Matrix movie in 1999. And of course, I feel this movie was kind of course correcting what a lot of people would have agreed on, even the Wachowskis, and for the most part, Warner Brothers would have agreed there are certain glaring issues from 2 and 3 that we by and large did not care for. Or at least maybe Warner Brothers after the fact, but they probably wouldn't say that outright. But, like the long-winded speeches and the nonsensical philosophical talky talks, and like the whole political diatribe that Morpheus and the other council members had to go through, the sweaty orgy caves, which is, like I said, they're course correcting certain things that's kind of glaring problems that people didn't really care for, like also the over the top clad leather outfits that it was running rampant pretty much in the early 2000s, mostly because of the Matrix. The Matrix, pretty much infected in a way the way other movies in Hollywood, been churning out certain movies, because just like with perfect example, when the Nolan trilogy came out, ever since then, everybody wanted to try to mock that in a way, and that became like a detriment to DC DC movies, live action ones going forward, because like with Man of Steel, they trying to darken up Superman because it works so well with Batman. They trying to apply it to everything else since, and that, in my opinion, became one of the biggest glaring issues with the DC cinematic universe in its early stages. I mean, they eventually, like after a year and a half, they kind of detoured away from that. Kind of figured out that not only they can't keep up with Marvel at this stage in the game, but they also cannot. They have to focus on singular stories and not worry about trying to fit everything into a big cinematic universe. You gotta take their time with it, but they also cannot darken up every character. Some characters aren't meant to be Batman, And that was the glaring problem, in my opinion. And so the Matrix films caused, in the early 2000s, a lot of people wearing like dark clad, leather stuff. And this, well, I mean, they definitely, kept, a fair amount of black, but it's more casual wear black that makes sense in social settings. It's not like just, if you remember what Trinity wore, for example, in most of the earlier Matrix films, it's like super like leather. And Niobe wore that kind of brown outerwear, but it's still kind of leatherish. And it's like all that black, and even mentioned in the film, like the analyst played by Neil Patrick Harris. This is full spoilers, by the way, of Matrix Resurrections. If you want me to go full detail about the movie specifically, check out my spoiler review. But Neil Patrick Harris, as the analyst, even mentions that he's like, the kind of like the machine's, upgraded format. It's kind of like, he's like the T1000 to their T800s. And he mentions that how, like, he has a new way of utilizing human beings as a power source rather than like, the way they used to do it is, and they kind of like explain why everything was like almost drenched in, like, if you seen like the old Matrix films, it looked like it was like just the color green was just pretty much like a wash over every scene, and like the stilted dialogue and everything like that. And then now it's like he's in a way the explanation as to why now they're talking like normal people, and things a little bit more like there's some lightheartedness a bit. It's like, there is in a way he's explaining like he make themselves, make the humans in a state of like kind of like you're in a prison that it's like living in a mansion, but you cannot leave the mansion. In a way, it's like your pleasure is your prison, and that you do not feel like you want to leave. And that's in a way the analyst has put these people into, and he's pretty much feeding off that. Even so, with Neo and Trinity, who people can't explain like why she all of a sudden can fly when she never did that before. Well, it's kind of like I said, like Wachowski's, Lana Wachowski is in a different mindset than she used to be back then, where horribly she lost her parents and then her best friend, and so she's in a different mindset. That's why you got like the analyst there as the analog to psychiatry and like the bad stuff about psychiatry. Like you see the analyst giving Neo all these blue pills, pretty much treating the symptom and not the disease in a way, just to keep them sedated in a way as long as possible. And so the whole power that Trinity has all of a sudden is pretty much their relationship. Even though in the past films it seems like a very quick response, like all of a sudden they're in love. Are you? We can't tell. It seems like it's like, oh, he's the male lead, she's the female lead, they have to be together, and there's no explanation or at least any rhyme or reason why these two should feel any kind of connection. This one does better, where they course correct that, and so they have Neo and Trinity in Simulate, which is a very clever thing to include, just sitting down and having a chat. And you can tell, like, they have intuition wise, they feel like, there's something about this person that I really am digging. And it's like, she has a husband and children, but she set the time out to just have like a cup of coffee with this guy that she probably met once, and just and just having like a chat with them. And I appreciate that because we didn't get that before. You didn't have time to actually sit down and actually have like a sensible discussion with each other to build that relationship as to why he will go out of his way and put a lot of lives of Nairobi's people in order to get Trinity out, because he has that connection with her. And that connection is pretty much like to use Monster Incorporated as an example, where they originally, just like the old Matrix, utilize, like fear as the power source. The monsters eventually realize you get a more potent power source when making kids laugh than they would with screams. And the analysts realize this power source these two have, where you keep them close, but not too close to where you can pretty much power a city. This kind of is like a gap in the Matrix which you think only Neo can access to give him his powers. No, Trinity it shows by Trinity that anybody can utilize this glitch in a way in order to do what Neo does. You just have to find a way to access it. And there's some kind of thing where it's like, kind of like, because, Lana Wachowski is a person, a trans person, and it's kind of like a analog for like, for like, transition. It's something like that. It's like, be able to transition to one form to the other. And it's brilliantly played, honestly. And it's like, I don't think people like taking the time to actually look at the nuances. Maybe it's just because it probably wasn't explained clearer. But because I watched this twice, but to be fair, like the first time I kind of watched it late, so I didn't feel like I retained it, but I felt like I liked it. But I watched it a second time just to make sure that it wasn't like a fluke. And no, I actually dug this. And like and like I said, like they dealt with like the color scheme a lot. They they don't feel like there's muted colors. It's like you see a fair bit of vibrant colors in this, and like mostly from Morpheus, rebooted Morpheus' clothes, because like I mentioned in my review, it seems like it looks like they had Morpheus raid a gay man's closet for some reason, because why with the flamboyant colors? That's a nitpick, but I just like, even though he's a great actor, he's been in stuff apparently, and it's just that I don't know, maybe it's because I'm spoiled with Lawrence Fishburne's portrayal of Morpheus. Maybe if this guy was cast somehow back then, it would have been reading better for me. But it's just that I don't know, he had a different swagger than it compared to Lawrence Fishburne. They're two different types of swagger, and like this new dude, even though he's not a terrible actor, it's just that I don't know, it just wasn't jiving well for me. He wasn't terrible, it was just like he just wasn't a fit for me. But then you got the character Bugs, which I like Bugs, but that blue Sonic the Hedgehog character, it's like I said, they trying to make sure that there's some colors that's in this movie that pop, because you gotta give her like this Sonic the Hedgehog hair, and just to make her stand out kind of situation. But then it's also with the upgraded way of teleporting out of the Matrix, which is cool, utilizing doors and windows rather than payphones, because nobody uses payphones anymore. That's a very 90s thing. Now they utilize a different method in order to traverse between the real world and the Matrix, which is a little bit more convenient rather than trying to, which is cool to see in the first Matrix film, which they highlighted mostly in this film, more so than the 2 and 3, because they want to hint at 2 and 3, but they don't want to be the focus, because 2 and 3 left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. Like the very French dude that you saw in the restaurant in Matrix 2, he makes an appearance in like because he's like a purge model that somehow like Smith got out or something like that, and he's pretty much like went nuts and everything like that. He should have been like deleted or purged. I like the actor who's playing Agent Smith, or at least the rebooted version of Agent Smith, who also would be like Neo's boss in his game design job. But Hugo Weaving wanted to come back, but he's because of COVID situation, he wasn't like because during the time they was filming this, it was still 2020, and COVID was running rampant and everything like that. And it's like we didn't even have vaccines yet at the time. They were still working on vaccines or about to roll out the vaccines, or announced they was about to roll out the vaccines while this movie was being filmed. But given what little that they had to work with, they still churned out a pretty decent film. And there was a headline, people behind the scenes, like production and everything like that, was getting in trouble because they, a lot of movies sets were being shut down temporarily for COVID reasons, but they still somehow snuck, and done the filming anyway. But anyway, I like the fact that they mentioned about Zion, and like I mentioned before, the whole orgy caves and everything like that. They kind of done away with that. They very in a very great writing, whereas it's like there was like not only like a civil war with the machines that decided to like band with the humans, but there was like a split where Morpheus, after the machine war, and when like Neo, put a stop to the fight with machines, he took over as head of the council, but eventually, Nairobi broke off with her own splinter group of humans, and started Io. I believe that was the new hub for the humans, where they managed to work with some machines who want to work with the humans and help with cultivating strawberries and other food and everything like that, like legit food, none of that slop they used to eat back in the day, like you see like in like those trays in the first film, like just like gruel crap. They make a synthetic sky, so they actually can technically have a sky, or at least be able to see a skyline. So there's like it's nice beats to this. It's like a progression, even though in the movie it's like 60 years has passed. There was a significant amount of decent changes that see like a healthy natural progression of the events. I was mentioning about like Agent Smith. I love the new actor. Or at least I'm pretty sure they could easily make a second, because I have a feeling they was gonna, after this one, which I actually believe that was supposed to have been, it would have been successful, or at least should be. It's successful to me, but just successful enough to warrant, maybe another movie. But don't churn them out like you did before, where it seemed like, okay, the first one's successful, we have to like, Warner Brothers has like, we gotta get and stick out here now. We gotta strike like an iron is hot, instead of letting it breathe and give the Wachowskis a moment to come up with like a reason for a good story to the sequel. That's why there was like a dig, the inside joke dig at Warner Brothers at the beginning about like pretty much behind the scenes, Warner Brothers was gonna make a Matrix 4 with or without the Wachowskis, and Lana decided like, if he's gonna make one anyway, I might as well be at the helm and make it the way I feel comfortable, the way it's gonna be made. And I respect that, and I also respect the dig at Warner Brothers, because Warner Brothers can act like a straight up fool sometimes, even more so than even Sony by comparison, when it comes to trying to put out product. But I like the way they did with Agent Smith, where it's like when he and Neo finally have like an actual discussion after so many years, being near each other but not near each other in a way where it's like, I know you see me, I see you, and it's like they have obviously still don't like each other, but enough time has passed, and enough time where they go at each other over the years, and one kills the other and the other vice versa, and they just keeps rebooting, and they come to the realization that like, well, pretty much like, and it's like, this is like it's like begrudging respect towards one another, and I like that because that's like almost like a healthy progression for these two particular characters. Because Agent Smith is probably one of the best movie villains of all time, a great creation, and he is the first one to say that, I like the way I am now, because just like with Trinity and with Bugs, you imprinted on me in a way so that I can be free to do and not be trapped in, as a code in the Matrix. I want to do whatever I want to do, and like, and I just don't want you in here because they'll eventually just reboot everything. So you stay out of the Matrix. We don't have to interact with each other. Like, I'll stay here so I can do my thing. You stay out there, and we'll just, and leave that be. Neo's response is that, because he wants to go out the analyst, because like Smith wants to go out after the analyst because it's him doing the controlling, and he doesn't want to get like a reboot or a purge or whatever. And Neo's like, you can have him. I just want Trinity. I'll leave. Like, by and large, that that could have easily been the agreement. Like, you let me get my Trinity out, I don't have to be here anymore. I honestly, like, would rather that, and then I'll let you do you. You let me do me. That's it. But it's just like, of course, Agent Smith is not in total agreement because, like, as long as he's in the Matrix, the more chance the analyst will try to interfere, and so you get this little fight. But I like the way the actor who plays the rebooted Smith, because he does a far better job of channeling Hugo Weaving's mannerisms than the actor who's playing the rebooted Morpheus, honestly. But I love the fact that, it's kind of like with Dragon Ball Super during that Tournament of Power where Goku enlists the help of Frieza in order to help win the tournament against like Jiren's forces. And like, it's unlike, like, and then you bring in Agent Smith to be like a Deus Ex Machina to come in, and because he is not affected by the powers of the analyst, so he come in and wreck shop on his ass. And I was in awe. I was like, oh snap! It's like, that was a twist I did not honestly see coming, and I do appreciate that. That was something that I probably, one of my favorite moments of Matrix 4 is that the Agent was coming in to save the day, actually. And then another clever thing is that instead of the analyst causing rando people to turn into other agents, he just brainwash a lot of random people to pretty much become like a swarm and starts like suicide bombing themselves, like jumping out of windows and just landing on Neo and his friends' cars, and just to stop them from escaping the Matrix. But I mean, it is incredible if you just give it a chance and just actually look at it. Just like, because like, if you recall the film or, the other previous films and you look at this, you can tell the glaring differences. Like I said, like, people complain about like the fighting here is not up to snuff. Of course it isn't, because like when they were shooting this, it was the height of COVID, and on normal circumstances, they have all these fight choreographers with these actors for like at least several months. But that time had to be cut right in half because of the COVID issues. Because we couldn't even touch people or be like in like have to be in 6 feet apart kind of situation. So you had to cut them some slack. Turn this light. You got to cut them some slack with that. But even still, you don't want the same old stuff that you saw in the previous 3 films. For by and large, the fights in those films were cool. My favorite to this day, one of my favorite fight scenes in the film was from, not even from just in this film specifically, but just fights in cinema as a whole. One of them is the fight between Neo and the 100 of Agent Smiths in that park. I love that fight. It's so much fun, and I'm just like sucked in immediately at just these two like arch rivals, not arch rivals, it was just arch enemies just going at it, and it's just cool looking. But you don't want Lana Wachowski to regurgitate the same, because without Lana, the Warner Bros. People would have regurgitated that same crap, and you would be complaining right now about how like it looks so stilted dialogue and the same old PS2 level graphics and Dragon Ball Z level fights that we've seen it 1,000 times, and not even just in the Matrix films, but like in a lot of films in general. This is more so like everything brought down to the bare bones what we liked about the Matrix, franchise, and that's what I feel like it is. It's a trimmed down version of what we liked. It was like Lana Wachowski picked up the right stuff that we needed from the Matrix, and it's like not only makes you think, but you're not bogged down with the long diatribe of philosophical speeches. Like, you recall how Morpheus talked. You recalled how not the analyst, but the architect. You recall how he talked, right? That's what you would have gotten with Warner Bros. Without Lana Wachowski. With Lana Wachowski, she understood. She loves this franchise. She loves the character of Neo and Trinity. The same way I love Spider-Man. He's my personal hero, my idol. Lana Wachowski feels that way about Neo and Trinity. This is her babies. She looks to them. She looks up to these characters, and she doesn't want them perverted in any way. So that's why she, took the helm and make sure that if they was going to make a Matrix 4 anyway, she's going to make sure it's done as best as she will feel comfortable about it. And hopefully the rest of us feel comfortable about it. So I honestly believe that, people should, I'm not trying to influence anybody. If you don't like it, you don't like it, and you can let me know in the comments below your reasons why you don't care for Matrix 4. But I honestly believe you should definitely give it a chance. At least try to compare and contrast, look back, review the other films, and look at this one again and see like the stark differences. And you tell me that this one is any worse than 2 and 3. And yes, if I'm honest, I would love to see, like, if in a perfect world coronavirus wasn't like an issue back in 2020, I'm pretty sure Lana Wachowski would have gave us better fight scenes. But I'd rather less fight scenes and a decent story than a crappy story with a spectacular fights, on the level of Dragon Ball Z, because like we don't get enough of those in every other film. It's just like, it's like, it's apples and oranges, or you just pick your poison kind of situation. But honestly, there are great stuff in this. There legit are great stuff in this. You just got to give it a chance. It's like I mentioned before about like, the nice callbacks to other characters. They're not shoehorned in. They make sense to be there. Like those computer programs that Neo met in that subway, the parents that got purged, but that little girl that he met is grown up. That's Priyanka Chopra, one of Jonas Brothers' wives. She's that little girl that all grown up. She's not shoehorned in. She's there for a reason to help get Trinity out. Nobody. There's no shoehorning stuff in, and they pick certain spots for callbacks that make sense in the narrative. And like, unlike the other films, the supporting characters, I mean, like, nobody probably much really cared. Honestly, Bugs is the only new supporting character that we pretty much really cared to know. Maybe the bald-headed guy with the headset. It was probably another person that you actually honestly found interesting. But the others, at least they wasn't like, the guy who, turned traitor in the first film, or like, the other, because you never really care about the other, people on that ship, beyond the turncoat and like Trinity, Morpheus, and Neo. This one, you pretty much focus on like Bugs, because she's a standout. She does the most of the dialogue here. She pushed forward the narrative, but other than her, you pretty much care about the people that you've been around with, since the beginning. And that is probably fine for me, because honestly, I don't think anybody really cared. And they're there to serve a purpose as backup, but you don't need to be focused on like the other people, like the Oracle's partner, that who fought Neo just to test them, to truly get to know somebody if you don't fight them. It's like I never cared for that. That was dumb dialogue, unnecessary fights, honestly. But this, you're not filled with that. It's like they're there. You probably get their names, or you definitely get their names. But it's like they have their little lines here and there, but they're not the primary focus. They're there as backup, and of course, yeah, that's pretty much like I said. You cut it all down to what you need, and that is how I feel. I mean, like, you might disagree. That's perfectly fine, but it's honestly not fantastical. It's not like a retread of the first film, but like I said, this could have easily been like the proper Matrix 2 that we should have gotten, but it wasn't meant to be. But this is a great movie. I put it right below the first Matrix movie as far as like how I will rank my enjoyment of the Matrix films. There's 1, 4, 2, then 3. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. If you found some your set of pros and cons in the films, please let me know. And of course, I just slipped my mind what I was about to say. But anyway, what you think about the characters overall? Like, what characters worked for you? What characters did not? What changes did you enjoy? What did you not? But by and large, yeah, I found this an enjoyable film. I watched it twice, mostly just to make sure I retained everything properly. But I would not mind seeing this again. It's actually a pretty decent movie. I wish I would have gone to the theaters to see it, but it was on HBO Max. I went and like, okay, I'll just watch it there. It was 3 hours long, but I think it's like a proper use of the 3 hours. I think nearly 3 hours, but yeah, it's like a proper use of the length of time. Yeah, but anyway, thank you all for joining me. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff to Talkative Carl on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Follow me in the links in the description below. And yeah, I'll see you guys in a little bit for another video, so stay tuned.